So gut healing, this is a really important subject, and currently a lot of people are really interested in healing their immune systems, their guts, keeping their immune systems strong, and the gut is very important in that regards. So in the studies that I've done with Dr. John Beltime, who's the founder of Body Talk, and Dr. Laura Stuve, PhD in molecular biology, and she's done 25 years of research in genetics. The course that I had done with her in body ecology, we learned a lot of things about the gut. So the gut microbiome, it's been very much villainized, and we're told that bacteria are bad, we must sterilize, we must sanitize, we must get rid of bugs. But in 2012 they did a human microbiome project, and the findings are that the bugs are actually not the bad guys, and there are actually in fact more bugs than there are us, our own cells. There are, there's 100 trillion bacteria and other microorganisms known collectively as the human microbiome, and this works in symbiosis with our cells, which are much fewer, which are much less. So it makes sense that we need to make sure that we are taking care of the gut and of the microbiome in general, because the microbiome is in every part of the body, the nasal passage, the skin, the gut, the digestive, and other areas. So it's about looking after the microbiome as a whole. And one thing is that the microbiome, they provide key functions and proteins that our bodies require. They help to excrete waste, which is then digested by other microbiome, and so they have a purpose. It's not like they're just there for no reason, because nothing in the body is existing for no reason. So we provide them with a warm environment, they multiply, they provide essential services for healthy digestion, brain function, and a balanced immune system. So they're actually doing us a lot more favors. And where they can live without us, we can't live without them. So in short, we need them, and so we should feed them accordingly. There are only about 50 to 100 pathological strains, and there are 100 trillion mutualists. So they are working like friends with benefits, and working for the body. And by using antibacterial products and sanitizers, scrubbing everything, eliminating parasites, we have essentially eliminated a big part of the responsibility of parasites, which then leads to autoimmune dysfunction, which didn't exist 100 years ago, or before that. And so it's essentially impossible to avoid bugs, and so it's more important that we provide them with the correct real estate and with the correct balance, so that they do not take over the real estate and just kind of like invade the place, but that they are doing their job effectively, and they know their place and they know their job. So that is what we would be working on if we were doing a balance for the gut. And this would come up, it could come up during any session, any body talk session. It's not like it's a specific session for the gut, but if the gut is coming up as a priority, then that is what we would be looking at. And hopefully that you can see now that the bugs are not the enemy, and that actually they far outnumber us. So it's probably wise that we look after them instead of trying to eliminate them. And So it's estimated that 90% of the cells in the human superorganism are microbes and only 10% are cells, human cells. And so there are 10,000 species of microbiome versus 22,000 genes. There are mutualists where there is an association of two different species where each member benefits, and commensals where there is a symbiotic relationship where one organism is benefiting and there's little or no harm. It's only when you have a pathogen that there is an agent of disease, but there are not that many. And opportunistic pathogens, they're the ones that can become pathogens, but they're not normally a threat if you're treating the immune system correctly. And so M. Velasquez-Manoff says that without bacteria present, the immune system remains half asleep. The effects of the microbiome are on the skin, the kidneys, the brain, the immune function, vitamin production, digestion. How do we get our microbiome? Essentially, well, when you're born, you're getting the microbiome. If you have a normal, natural delivery, you are getting the microbiome from your mother, and this provides the ideal microbiome if you have a natural delivery. If you don't, if you have a cesarean, then you miss that, and you are getting usually the bifidobacteria, which is very important at that time. And also through breastfeeding, you're getting through breastfeeding, you're getting bifidobacteria. Again, if you miss that stage, you're on the back foot. But that doesn't mean that it's the end. It just means that, you know, you are at somewhat of a disadvantage to the people who have, and you just have to take extra care as you're growing and as you especially as you get older, you know. And so from the Human Microbiome Project, which involved 250 people, they were nasal, oral, skin, lower GI, urogenital, and analyzed for DNA sequencing their unique DNA signatures to see which microbes were present, and more species were found in the gut than in any other areas. So that is why the gut is considered so important as well, because the healthy microbiome of the gut ensures, you know, your mood being good, and it affects so many other areas of your body, and of course the immune system, you know, how you are able to fight off pathogens and things. So how can you ensure you have a healthy microbiome? Is you know, eating a healthy biodiverse diet, lots of fiber and plant green fiber is very important. If you're going to eat the wrong material, then, you know, it's highly likely that you will not have the best microbiome. It depends, because again, it's all about where did you start? Did you start with a good microbiome to begin with? Then maybe you can get away with more for longer. And if you didn't, then you might have to be extra careful, and you might find that your neighbor is able to eat McDonald's and doesn't look like they're doing so badly, but you don't know also what's going on in the background. Sometimes having symptoms quicker is it's kind of a blessing, because it's telling you that you need to do something, whereas other people don't get the warning signs until it's too late. So essentially the microbiome likes to feed on plant material, good microbes feeds on that sort of thing, and a variety in the diet. So, you know, different colors, different things, not just one thing. And the idea they say is multiply your minimal daily requirement by 10. Microbes talk to each other, they talk to the cells. So in Body Talk, essentially what we're doing is we are helping them to communicate understand what they should be doing. Sometimes they're confused, and if the person is confused about something, that can be reflected in their microbiome, because everything is a reflection of what is going on in the mind, in the body. It's a cycle. So we can guide that process back to balance. It's not like it's not a doom and gloom situation, and they outnumber us 10 to 1, so it's a good idea to work with them. If you start taking care of your gut and feeding it the right things, you'll start to notice, just that's a good thing to try, to notice, how do you feel after a few weeks, after a few months? How does your skin look? How is your mood? How's your energy? How's your digestion? How are you feeling? Are you more positive? Are you more enthusiastic about life? Are you, when you eat the wrong things, do you feel worse suddenly? Well, that's because now your body is starting to listen and understand what it wants versus what it doesn't want. I guess I have the misfortune of being told very loud and clear when something agrees or doesn't agree with me. And I've had that for a very long time. So I don't really get to cheat that often, because my body's just loud and clear, like, no, you're not doing that. And I guess it's a good thing, because it keeps me focused. And so you can start to be more in connection with your body by doing that. If the more you neglect your body, the more it's going to say, well, you're not listening, so I'm not going to say anything. And then often those are the people that end up with the severe issues, where it's like end stage, and they're like, well, how did this happen? Well, you know how it happened. It's all to do with a variety of circumstances. So alcohol, sugar, excess grains, especially gluten, not a good idea. Rancid oils, anything fried, they'll go against the process of healing the gut. And so by balancing it, by reducing and cutting out those things and increasing the healthy additions, will help to heal your gut. And you can gluten is another thing to look at. Over 50% of the population don't agree with gluten. Dr. Davis has written a book about, I think it's called Wheat Belly. You can have a look at that, and he goes into in great detail how most of the of his clients, his patients that came in for a variety of conditions, I think all of them improved when he took out gluten from he told them to take out gluten from their diet. So it's up to you. It's an addictive substance. It's an addictive ingredient. So be aware that when you start to cut it out, you're going to start experiencing withdrawal symptoms. So maybe do it in a way that, support yourself with other things, and make sure that you're getting enough nutrients, because gluten is one of those things as well that causes an increase in appetite, in ghrelin, and it's got like a 60-90 minute window. So usually people are hungry again, because it's got that ability to make you hungry, make you addicted. And it is a very gluey substance, so it sticks everything together in your intestines. If you look into it, and you get testing and things, people say, oh, I have had a celiac test and I'm fine. Well, just be aware that a celiac test is showing you the end stage. I won't expect a young person, it's not that common for a young person to have a celiac test that comes back as adverse. A celiac test is a test that will show that the villi, or the little projections in the gut, have been completely destroyed. That usually happens later in life. They're starting to be destroyed earlier in life, but that doesn't show up in a celiac test. You would need to go for a test like the Celiac Test, which you can get done privately. And there are various doctors who do these tests. There used to be Robin Mason, a nutritionist in London, I don't know currently, but you can look at the Celiac test if you want to, but just be aware that you don't need to necessarily get an expensive test. If you're having any sort of symptoms, you're more than likely to be reacting to it, because there's a variety of things going on with gluten. One is the glyphosate that has been sprayed, and the chemicals that have been put into the wheat, which most people cannot tolerate. And the other thing is that the hybridization of the wheat, people say, oh, but the bread used to be such a sacred thing, and you look at, Jesus breaking bread and all that. Bread was very different and at that time, and bread is very different now. And hybridization of the wheat, depletion of the soils, insertion of chemicals, all these factors means that there's also a much larger percentage of gluten now in bread than there was before. So there are all kinds of factors that are going on with gluten, and so that is why people react to it. And there is a thing called Essene bread. I've seen it. I've bought it in Hong Kong. You can buy it in the freezer section, and I'm sure you can buy it in other places. But again, it's probably better because it's sprouted wheat. But I wouldn't. I mean, generally, I would just avoid gluten because it is just not very easy to process for most people. And so if you are somebody who has a variety of markers with the Celiac test, you could have brain markers, you could have gut markers, you could have all kinds of inflammatory markers, in which case you are best to avoid this sort of a food, because it's just not worth putting your body through that extra stress, especially if you already have an inflammatory process going on. Well, you can have an inflammatory process and you can do all kinds of supplements and things, but if you're going to carry on fueling the fire, it's not going to help you. So that's why I would avoid it. And then of course, alcohol, sugar, other things that are rancid are going to contribute. So it's a weighing up whether you do the good things, and then are you going to also add fuel to the fire, or are you going to start taking that away? That's something you have to decide, and it may be it's a gradual process. It's usually not something that you are just going to do all in one go, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's something that happens over time, and the only person that will benefit is you, and well, actually maybe your family and your colleagues and your friends, because if you're in a better mood, then they will be too. The other thing that affects the gut-brain communication is the gut-brain communication pathway. So, stress is a sympathetic response, and in stress, we're in fight or flight. Digestive enzyme production, gut motility goes down because it's like all about running away from the tiger. You're not in the digestion mode. Parasympathetic response is rest and relaxation, and you want to be in parasympathetic mode more than you want to be in sympathetic mode. Permeability of the gut increases with the sympathetic response, and this will elevate your immune response and inflammation and potential infection. Also, the permeability of the gut is dependent on so many other things like birth processing. If you've had a lot of formula fed babies have this issue with the gut, because the milk that is given to the formula milk that is given to a newborn baby whose gut is still open and not sealed, and all the proteins that cannot be digested, because cow's milk is not designed for a human baby. And if you look at all the species, they're all consuming their own milk. In mammals, they're not consuming other mammals' milk. So that's a whole other thing, but you know, in some cases there hasn't been an option for a variety of reasons. So we look at how we can work on that and heal that. So the enteric nervous system, the gut communicates via the vagus nerve. GABA, serotonin levels and neurotransmitters are influenced by this system. There are other factors like neuroendocrine system, immune system, which affects this too. So all these factors would be looked at, and if they came in, that we needed to balance a neurotransmitter or a communicator or GABA or something, that would come in. Vagus nerve, that would come in during a session. Vagus nerve flow to small intestine is 80% vagus nerve to brain. So it makes sense that we strengthen the gut and the vagus nerve, you know, because it's going that way. And the small intestine in traditional Chinese medicine, which is also incorporated into this this system, the body talk system, is representing discernment and between what is right, wrong, good, bad, what is useful, not useful. So when you ingest a toxin or something that is not good for your body, the enteric brain needs to know what to do with it. And if the enteric brain, the gut brain, is not healthy, it is not going to effectively eliminate that toxin, and especially if it's already been damaged. So this is where we would be working on the enteric brain, strengthening the enteric brain, strengthening the heart brain, because currently in our Western society, it's all about the head brain, and the gut brain has been largely ignored. So what can affect it? You know, we would clear the filters of the gut brain, which could be electromagnetic frequencies. They can largely affect that. Pollution, culture, disturbed morphogenic fields, physical damage, toxins, there are all kinds of things. And we will always be guided by the innate wisdom on where we are going with that thing. And so I mentioned in a previous video that in my studies, inflammation in the GI tract was associated with anxiety. You may notice this. I have noticed this in childhood, in the past, when I had no one to tell me about the gut brain and about the correct ingredients to feed the gut. I had a lot of anxiety, and there was no information to me available in the 80s and 90s about what to feed the gut. So I was eating all the gluten and all the things, and I had other issues going on, and my gut was not in a good state, and so my mood was not in a good state. So what they noticed is that giving a probiotic to the mice first, the anxiety didn't occur, and without a microbiome, the mice were more stressed, and they had higher cortisol stress levels, ACTH levels, than with when they didn't have the microbiome, or when they had the microbiome. So in Body Talk, we would look and consider all these things. We would balance the three brains, the head, heart, and the gut. We would, this work is all influenced by Advaita Vedanta and the Vedic system, traditional Chinese medicine, Western medicine, quantum physics concepts. We would look at the meridians. They could be blocked and affecting the gut. It doesn't necessarily have to be the small intestine meridian. Could be another meridian affecting that area. And antibiotics, they're everywhere. They're in our water supply, they're in our food. So we can't really avoid them, but we can start to eliminate things and to take measures as well. We would look at improving communication in the immune cells. Some cells can be overprotective, some lacking boundaries. How is the drama in a person's life being reflected in their immune cells? And that happens, there's mirroring. The cells should be proactive but never overzealous. we would help balance these, improve the communication, highlight issues to the brain. When you highlight the issue to the brain, then it can fix it. The brain is just a processor, and it just completes the automated processes that it's being given to process. The stresses are what prevents things from happening. If there's too much stress, the brain cannot process and complete the actions required. So this is what we will be dealing with. Everything is a reflection. Confusion in the cells can be confusion in the mind. The role of fundamental substances would be considered. We do not prescribe any supplements as such. We work to optimize the absorption and the utilization of what's already there. So utilization of all the fundamental substances. Natural supplementation rarely causes toxicity, and natural minerals are essential nutrients for the body to survive and function. So, you know, all the natural minerals can be found in the food and drink, and you may need a supplement, but that's something we're not prescribing as such. Calcium chloride, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, sulfur, selenium, chromium, molybdenum, and a few others are also there. And some minerals are toxic, and they may need to be balanced, and so that they can be eliminated properly. They're toxic in larger amounts. Lead, aluminium, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, they can be poisonous, and they may need detoxing. And so that is something that we would help to do that, and for the body to do that itself, to eliminate it. And once the body is able to recognize what it needs to do, then it can do that properly. And the vitamins A, B, C, D, E, K, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, fiber, all these things would be considered and are important in a balanced diet. And prebiotics, so these are largely missing today in our diets. Plant fiber is what contains these. They nourish the good bacteria in the gut, which is already in the gut. The examples of, they feed the mutualists, bacteria in the gut, and the examples of these are things like garlic, onions, leeks, bananas, artichokes, asparagus. Probiotics are what feeds, what contains the live friendly bacteria, yeast that are needed to create a healthy gut, and the key is that they are alive. So the two main ones are Lactobacillus, Bifidobacterium. There are over 50 species of these, and a healthy gut microbiome essentially has got 500 to 1,000 different species. And the key is the variety of species, the different species versus necessarily the number of the microbiome. So the best way to get the biggest variety would be to have a variety of food sources, kefir, water kefir. Some have milk. I just personally think that water kefir is better. You can also get goat's milk kefir online. Kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso. These are all examples. I don't advocate any particular brands, but just to say what I've made my own in the past. I've made water kefir, I've made kombucha. I didn't particularly get the best results. I'm not the best at making these things. My kombucha never quite came out like a shop bought kombucha. So I personally just feel at the moment I am just buying it because I've got a lot of things going on. But just an example, you know, you can buy kombucha. It's actually quite a nice drink. Pure Earth does a water kefir, and it's got a lot of different strains, and it's a nice drink to have. If you can make your own, you can always get scobies and grains and make your own, and you can usually get those from people online or friends, or you can buy them even if you can't find someone who's willing to share, because they multiply so that people want to share them. But if you can't, I mean, you can usually get them through Arnica forums and things, but if you cannot do that, you can always buy it. So if you feel ready to make your own, then, you know, go ahead. And so as I said, the diversity is more important. So 10 strains versus 2, number of parts per billion is not so important. Refrigerated probiotics are better than just off the shelf, but there may be exceptions. I'm currently using a seed-based probiotic, and I will post some of the ingredients of that in the description because I don't have it to hand, but it has it's part of a seed-based nutrition package. So it contains seeds as well as probiotics. So it contains like watermelon seeds and seeds that you wouldn't just be able to get from anywhere. So it's a good combination, and it's been well designed. It's got a good variety of strains. I will post that in the description because I don't have that to hand. But you can also get probiotics from good health stores. And again, I'm not recommending something like Yakult or these Actimels and things, because they don't have the live bacteria and they probably have sugar in them. So that is detrimental to the probiotic. So if you are going to get a probiotic, the discernment is important. If you're going to spend money, buy the right thing. Otherwise, why bother? Things that are very commercial are generally not recommended, and they don't do anything. They're just well marketed. So alcohol and sugar consumption is going to reduce the benefit of whatever you're going to good things you're going to do. And we can also balance different things, not just the regular communicators, but we can balance weight and metabolism communicators, including GABA, TSH, orexin, adiponectin, ghrelin. All these things are a factor in weight and metabolism, and there are more than that. There's just a few. And of course, women's hormones are they work in conjunction with the communicators, because if you have, you know, estrogen, progesterone, and oxytocin imbalances, other women's hormone imbalances, they can affect the weight and things like that as well. So we would balance those, meaning we would help the body to rebalance those themselves versus giving something from the outside. And this is the safest way to do it. You can take things, but it's not always as effective. And of course, we're working with priority. We're not just giving one size fits all. That's what's so unique about Body Talk. And yeah, so I'm going to put the example of the seed nutrition probiotic, what the ingredients are, and I will put that in the description. And that's basically what I wanted to say about gut healing. There are other things, of course, there are other things. There's the whole neuroendocrine and other areas. We're always guided in a session where we need to go. There could be other factors that come up, like environmental factors. There could be musculoskeletal factors. Lymphatic system could be clogged up. So in that case, you're not going to achieve anything until that is cleared. Active memory, cellular repairs. There could be consciousness things that are blocking or hindering things from healing. It's very difficult to say unless you're in a session, and then they would there's always a permission there. You get the permission, you do the scan, and you find out what that person needs to balance. And that is a tailor-made session. You're not going to have the same as anybody else, because everyone has a unique journey. Everyone has had a unique experience. Everyone has had unique circumstances. Even if two people have been bottle fed or cesarean sectioned or whatever, there's still going to be differences in those two people. There's still going to be differences in two people who've had similar birth trauma, because there's two people there. And we've seen that in case studies, and we've seen how they can respond differently. And so it's all about the unique individual, what they need at that time, in that moment. And that is how the results are the most effective, because we're not we are not going against what the individual needs. So this is just an overview of gut healing and what is needed for the gut. So the important thing is a variety of food, a variety of nutrients, and that saying that you are what you eat. So looking after your gut is about putting the right things in and helping to just clear away the filters and the toxins that are blocking the gut from being balanced. And that will result in a clearer mind, in better decision making, in a more balanced well-being and mood, more confidence, better serotonin, and better, just you'll feel better. You're going to start to be able to make better decisions in life, and that is the key. Because if somebody's not able to make the right decisions and they have all these issues with their gut, and their immune system is down, and then they have issues with well-being, and the immune system is so important, as we know, then that is not good. So we want that to be optimized, and that is what it's all about. So let me know if you find this useful, and please contact me if you would like more information. There is no need for you to understand everything that I've said, or for you to know all about these topics. That is what the practitioner does. We're just explaining so that you have an idea, and all these things would be balanced in a session if they were a priority. It is not necessary for you to understand them or for you to know the ins and outs of it. That is the job of the practitioner. The education is just for you to know how to take care of your own gut as well. Okay, thanks.